Welcome to Joy of the Hang. I'm your host, Sharon Stevenson. There's a kind of strength that doesn't always look loud. It doesn't always come with applause or recognition. Sometimes it's quiet, it's steady, it's a decision to keep showing up when life asks more of you than you ever thought you could give. Today's guest knows that kind of strength intimately. Krystal Geist is the founder of Her Warrior Heart, a mission rooted in resilience, healing, and helping women rediscover their power after life has tried to take it. This isn't just about surviving hard things, it's about what we do next, how we rebuild, how we reconnect, and how we turn our pain into purpose, not just for ourselves, but for others. Krystal, I'm so honored to have you here. Welcome to Joy of the Hang.
Thank you.
Of course, I should say welcome back because we talked last week with your husband, Mark. So, yeah, good to
Yeah.
see you again.
Great
So
to
let's
see.
hop right into it. For those meeting you for the first time, who is Krystal Geist beyond the titles and the mission?
Krystal Geist is a woman that grew up in a small town, kind of backcountry USA town, farmtown girl, and then life kind of threw me for a loop. I married Mark Geist, and he decided he's a Marine. Yeah, as you know, he's no longer active service, but once a Marine, always Marine. After he got out of the Marine Corps, and the first 9/11 happened, he decided to go back as a actually in the National Guard, and the National Guard wouldn't send him overseas, and so he decided to become a contractor. And so, long story short, that led us to Benghazi, 2012, and that kind of rearranged and shaped my life going forward to the woman that I am now. I do feel that my upbringing has made me. It's had a lot to do with the making of me now, as well as my faith, and of course Benghazi. So I would describe myself in a nutshell as just a child of God, a mother, grandmother, and a wife. I'm just going through everyday life, trying to be the rock for my family and advocating for women, for spouses of veteran and first responders.
What is it you think about your upbringing that made you who you are today?
Well, I think my mom was a single mom. She was or is the hardest working person that I know. She just always taught me just morals, just to be a good person, always leave things better than what you found it, be honest, work hard. And I think that's just really made me who I am. Like I said in the previous podcast, is just to never give up, never give up. And that's, I think, just so meaningful of your dreams, of your family, of yourself.
How did you and Mark meet?
So I was a waitress in a small town, the little town that I grew up in, and he had just recently moved there, and he became the chief of police in that town. And he would come in and have coffee and make little googly eyes at me. And one night I got pulled over for a headlight being out on my car, and I didn't get a ticket, but I came into work the next day, and Mark was there, and I asked him, I said, "Are you the cop that pulled me over last night?" Because they looked very similar. And he said, "No, if if it was me, I would have remembered." And I was young and dumb and fell for that 100%. And it just went from there. He would leave little flowers on my car that he would pick, or cards, on my seat. And then if it was winter time, he would scrape my windows, because we were in Colorado, so we get a ton of snow. He does none of those things now, but
He won the prize and now he doesn't take care of the prize?
yeah, my youngest daughter gets on him, and she's like, "Dad, you've got to get mom flowers, and you've got to open her door," and so
Yeah, it's all
we
about
give
the
him
little.
heck.
Yeah, you should. I
Yeah.
interviewed, not to go off the subject, but I interviewed a woman the other day. She's 101. And I said, of course, what's the key to love and longevity? And she said, the man has to make sure they continue to bring flowers and give notes. And she said, and the woman has to realize when a man has a hard day to go over and just rub his shoulders and just show him a little attention and affection. And she goes, you have to do that and hold hands. And she goes, it's really important, just those small little things. And she goes, it doesn't take a lot when he's at the grocery store to pick up a $2 rose. It could just be a single rose that just says, I'm
Absolutely.
thinking of you. So
Yeah, absolutely. I think that's great advice, and I should probably follow that as well. You get busy and
I know I learned something too. I'm like, I need to get better at that because I'm not, you know, we often get caught in our own little daily chores or whatever it is, right? And we
Right.
forget to take care of the person that's most important to us. So,
Absolutely.
yeah. So, for those that have not heard our last podcast that we did together with your husband, Mark, just briefly bring everybody up to speed with what happened in Benghazi.
Yeah. So September 11th and 12th, my husband Mark Geist was injured in the attack on the security annex. The CIA team went to rescue the guys who were in trouble over there, John Smith, Ambassador Stevens, and unfortunately, they were lost in that attack. And then uh, they went back after um, after that attack, went back to the CIA annex and defended that, and they were able to rescue over 25 Americans against a terror attack that night. I say 11th and 12th because it started on the 11th and went to the early morning of the 12th.
Right. And a book was written and a movie made called 13 Hours that
Yes.
tells more about the story, right?
Yep. That's
Yeah.
right.
So, what moment or series of moments led you to create Her Warrior Heart?
Well, after Mark came home and he was severely injured, and he came home and we just went through so much red tape trying to get medical bills taken care of, and as well as our own just everyday bills, the mortgage, the lights, just trying to keep the lights on. And after being a contractor, when he was a contractor, he was at that point a civilian, and a lot of people don't know this, that you're a civilian at that point, and so you don't get the medical care and treatment from the VA. And so trying to navigate the system of the Defense Base Act, it was a struggle. It was a struggle on all accounts, trying to get care and help for my husband, and also trying to take care of the family on the limited income that we had at the time. Our income was cut to a quarter. And Mark was just like, you know what, we can't do this. We have to find a way to help others navigate the system and help them financially. And so that's where Shadow Warriors Project was born. He wanted to start a nonprofit. And I said, I know nothing about running a nonprofit, but I'll learn and let's do it. And while doing that, I think God just put on my heart to be an advocate for women, just facing my own struggles and loneliness, and feeling that, you know, yes, my husband has went through the battle of his life and he's struggling, and just being that rock for him and my family. I just said, I matter too. These warriors deserve everything and more that they get. They get, there's a lot of support for them, and there should be. But I thought there's really no support for the spouses, for the caregivers. And so God just um, started healing me, started growing me, and developing me for Her Warrior Heart, for a retreat. And so it didn't happen overnight. It took years. And I had a lot of healing to go through. It was a lot of blood, sweat, and tears I put into this. But it's an amazing program. One of the things going through the healing process with Mark was I noticed how lonely it was. I think military and first responder wives are very strong, and they tend to do things on their own, and they're proud of that, as they should be. But we also just need somebody to talk to, somebody to say, hey, I'm just having a hard day. Can you pray for me? Or can you just watch the kiddos while I, just take a moment for myself? And so that's why I created the retreat, is to bring women to come to just be loved on, to create a network and a community for these ladies, so they're not alone, and they can just come and be honest and upfront with each other, because we're all going through the same thing, and just breathe, heal. We educate them on PTSD as well as other injuries. We have workshops that are all geared toward the healing wife and the hard things that we go through. It's fun. It's not just heavy and deep. I mean, it does get that way, but we do have a lot of fun. We eat a lot of great food and do a lot of fun activities, and we bond and we create lifelong friendships. And we do a lot of hard work, but I think it's necessary to have a break, to be a part of a community. It's all faith based, and as I said before, you're not getting through this life without little Jesus, and you're certainly not going to heal without him. And so we like to offer that, and we give tools on how to help yourself heal, as well as your warriors, your family. Giving up is never been an option for me, and I just kind of want to bring these ladies in, love on them, give them the tools they need, and hopefully make a difference, and that they can go home and make a difference and continue the fight at home. It's not just our warriors that are battling, it's we're battling too. We're fighting a different war at home,
Yeah.
whether they're gone or whether they're home. And so that's just something that's near and dear to my heart.
So this is a program aimed mostly at military wives, or I know that Mark was in civilian life when this happened. So who's this available to?
To military, contractor, and first responder wives. Yeah, what we found doing some research is, trauma is trauma, whether it's military, first responder, or contractor. There's a common denominator, and that's PTSD, and it's the same with the wives and the caregivers, and the suicide rate in the wives is almost as high as it is for our warriors. You don't see that because it's not listed. They don't really keep track of those numbers, but it's there. And so we definitely want to make a difference, because I feel if we can heal the wife, if we can surround her and build her up, we can help heal and protect the family.
Speaking of the family, do you know of any programs that exist for the children? Because they're impacted too.
I don't. I know there are some programs for college, and we kind of dabbled in starting something for the kiddos. It takes money, and unfortunately, we haven't been able to launch that yet. But I wanted to start a program called Let Them Soar, and that's sending kiddos to camps. For instance, we actually sent a girl to dance in New York City for a summer intensive. It was her dream to become a ballerina. And so I had her write an essay on why she wanted to be a ballerina, but also what it meant for her that her dad served. He was a ops guy. And I wanted her to see the sacrifice that he made. And that's why she was able to go to their school in New York City, was because of his service. And that's something that I want to restart once we are able to. And that's, we're only able to do that with financial help of donations, 1C3, and that's how we run our programs.
So we kind of went over it, but what is her warrior heart at its core? What do you want women to feel the moment they encounter it?
I want them to walk in the door and just be welcomed, and just know that, what, you're here. We just want to love on you. We want you to just walk in and just leave the load of the world behind. We want you to come. We want you to rest. We want you just to be yourself, and just open up and just forget the world for a moment, and just truly know that you're seen and you're heard.
I love that, because a woman's role is taking care of others so often, and to have that time where you're being taken care of, right? It
Yes.
must be
Yeah,
so freeing for them, right?
it
Oh,
is.
yeah, go
So
ahead.
many times, though, I hear when somebody fills out an application or they come, they're like, I want to, I feel like I shouldn't come, like I should save it for somebody else. It's just our nurturing
Yeah,
heart. And I always tell them, what, first and foremost is you were chosen to come. Sorry, my phone fell. You were chosen to be here, and you belong here, and you deserve to be here. And and that's the amazing part about these ladies, is they come and they receive, but they're also giving to each other. They want to lift up and nurture each other, and that's part of it. Is God created us to be social creatures, and to lift up and connect with one another. And that's just kind of the environment that we build, is just a loving, nurturing friendship,
I
type of
love it.
environment.
Do you do these retreats in Colorado? Is that where they are?
Yep. My first one I had in Texas, and it was great. It just required a lot of manpower to get there, because we are located in Colorado. So the last three I've had here in Colorado, and I'm having another one here in Colorado Springs, June 12th through the 16th. It is filled, but we will be having another one around the same time next year. We have them annually. My goal
And
is
how
to.
many people do you invite or include?
So we like to keep it small and intimate. So usually 8 to 10 is our max. We find that that's just kind of the perfect number. The ladies don't feel like they're overwhelmed with too many people. They can bond, they can share. I also have a therapist that comes, Dr. Carrie Elk from the Elk Institute, and she does the PTSD seminar as well as private sessions with the ladies. And so that gives them plenty of time to have the private sessions. She helps me run the workshops. It gives us just more time to be focused on each.
So is there a fee for this? Do they have to pay something, or is it all covered through your foundation?
Everything is covered through Shadow Warriors Project, from flights to food to lodging to all the activities, and I always have a welcome gift when they come. They are 100% just cared for. You just all they have to do is get on the plane and get here.
So they fill out an application and then you choose who's
Yes.
going to be this year and next year. Well, that's nice.
Yeah.
So why the word warrior? What does that word mean to you personally?
Ooh. I see what our guys do, to whether you're military contractor or first responder, you are running into the fight. You're not running away from it, you're running into it. And I think as a spouse, you do the same. You run into the fight, you run into the battle, and you're that shield for your family. You're that rock and you're the sword. And so I think just running into that fire, and for me, I've walked through that fire with so many wives and so many warriors, and I'm happy to do so. I've been there, done that, and I'm happy to do it again.
I love that. What are the biggest battles you see women quietly fighting today?
Oh gosh, I think identity, I think is a big battle. I think when you're kind of thrown into this fight, this being warrior mode, I guess, where you're fighting for your family, you tend to lose yourself in that battle. And I think you know you're given so many titles, mom, wife, caretaker, the list goes on and on. And so I think identity, and I also mean that as far as being a child of God. So many times we forget that we're loved and that by our creator and our maker. And we have so many titles that are not necessarily, they're a part of us, but they're not us. And we tend to lose ourselves. And I think just finding you again, and just finding your purpose.
I agree with that. I think women do feel like they're scattered, right? And there's pieces of them everywhere, so they don't feel whole. And they're
Exactly.
just like, I want to get back to my life before all that and feel, revisit who I was before, right? I remember going through that at one period of my marriage. It's kind of this, and I use the word lost. I just feel lost. I look in the
Yeah,
mirror and I don't know who I am anymore. Yeah. Yeah.
exactly. And I hear that a lot when women come to the retreat. And that's what we want. We want them to come and just, like I said, just leave the world behind and just be and have fun and just celebrate
Yeah.
who you are.
We discover the joy, right? Without all the stress of life.
Yeah, and we
Strength is,
celebrate being a woman and being a wife and a mother and all of the things, but
yeah.
there's
Well,
more.
that's true. I mean, and it's a mindset too, right? And shifting that mindset of, I had a friend say the other day, I was complaining about something, and she said, Sharon, you live an enviable life. And I went, it kind of stopped me in my tracks because I was like, oh, I guess I do. And I hadn't really thought about how blessed I am, right? Because it's my life and I'm
Hmm.
just living it, But from the outside looking in, I found that it really did. It stopped me in my tracks. And I went, you're right, I do. And I need to shift my mindset and stop complaining about whatever it was I was complaining and realize that I'm pretty darn lucky. And a lot of people would trade places, right?
Right.
Strength is often misunderstood. What does real strength look like in your world?
Real strength is making a choice each and every day to get up, to continue the fight and to do what you were called to do. Sometimes it's scary, sometimes it's hard, and many times you want to run away. And I think strength is just settling up and going for it anyway. I think it's just day. Even if at the end of the day, you might be in tears, you might feel like, hey, I rock this day, just facing the challenges each and every day head on and just being willing to show up.
How do you know what you're called to do? How do you know? How can you, do you know what I'm saying? Like, how do you
Yeah.
know what you're called to do?
I've had many a conversation with God about this.
Yeah.
I think just just seeking God, truly just seeking God, and just God, just be a lamp at my feet, and just walking and just moving in that faith, and knowing that God's gonna take you where you need to be, and that you are in the spot that you need to be.
Yeah.
It's, I don't know if that makes sense, but I think that's just been how I've known, is I believe God's created me for this time and purpose each and every day, to be, to be that strength, and that wife for Mark, to be my children's mom, and to be that grandmother, and I think, when I look back at just my upbringing, like I said, my mom was a single mom, and she worked two jobs. I was home a lot by myself. I was scared a lot of the time. And, and again, going back to that, that time has made me who I am now, because I think God allowed me to go through that, because he knew that, you know, I would be alone a lot of the time, and I would be afraid. And I've developed strength through those hard times, through the fear, and through the challenges, and just walking in that faith, knowing that God is with me, and God has me, and that, no matter what, that he's created me for such a time as this. And I think just trusting God, and where he's brought you.
A lot of people need that message today, I think. Was there a time when you didn't feel strong at all? And how did you move through that?
Well, there was many days I think I felt weak, I felt helpless, I felt worried, so many days of just trying to make it to the end of the day. Just, God, get me through this day, give me what I need for the day. And truly, I think that's just been it, is just relying on God, and just not losing faith or hope. I just felt, when I found out about Mark, I just, said, if I could just have hope, and, just the smallest amount of hope. God says, if you have, just a mustard seed of faith and hope, then, he can move mountains. And I've just held on to that. And so I've just never wavered in that hope, in that faith. And, one step at a time, God gets you through it.
Now we're going to talk a little bit about connection and belonging. So much healing happens in connection. I'm sure you've seen that at Her Warrior Heart. How have relationships, good or bad, shaped your journey?
Well, I think there's certainly been a lot of bad relationships. There's been, a lot of people, since the book and the movie came out, a lot of people come out of the woodworks and try to take advantage, or use Mark in particular for their own benefit and purpose. Even in the nonprofit world, sometimes I'm so disheartened at people, because you get into the nonprofit world because you have a huge heart, and you want to help, and you want to make a difference. And so many times you see that people maybe get into that for that reason, but then they don't follow up with what their mission is, or what they say. And it's really disheartening, because, there's just a lot of negative in the world. And, I think those times that we've met people like that, I just, I'm thankful for that, because those are lessons. Bad relationships, they help you see, even even you know the good ones, you appreciate them more. You see the light, and the appreciation for the good relationships, for the good times, for the, you know you look for that. I think the bad relationships, like I said, they're a lesson, and I'm thankful for that. I think, we're allowed to go through that, so we can develop a strength and a toughness, as well as discernment, and then appreciate the good things even more so.
Yeah, it's so hard though when you're let down by people that you so badly want to trust.
Absolutely. And it hurts, and you do get let down, and I think the lesson in that is, don't, it says in the Bible, do not become weary of doing good. And, in so many days, there's been days I've wanted to give up. So many days I'm just like, Mark, I don't know if I can do this anymore. Every time we turn a corner, we get a door shut in our face, or we're struggling, and we're fighting to help, or to fundraise, or whatever it may be. There's always a struggle, but it's truly just, I think, God creating, those moments to develop you and take you even deeper, and what he has next for you, all in deeper in trust of him. And we just got to remind ourselves, is we just can't let our heart become weary or hard. And we just, you've got to guard your heart above all else. Guard your heart, and keep going, because God, there's so much more good in the world than there is bad. And I believe that.
I believe that too. I was talking to somebody about this today. What I love about podcasting is that you can spend an hour really getting to know someone's story. And when you're watching the news, you're getting a 30-second soundbite of a big whatever, right? And so that's why I'm like, I majored in journalism in college, and I said I couldn't do that anymore because you weren't getting the media is a business, right? And you weren't getting the full story, and you were getting whatever sold, whatever
Yeah.
sensationalist, whatever thing was out there that was going to make people stop and watch, right? And I was like, but that's only part of the story. And the way they manipulated the story was so bothersome to me that I was like, this is not going to be my path. So I do have a question about that too, something you said. So sometimes when obstacles are put in our way, I often wonder in my faith if God is telling me to pivot and go in a different direction or if I'm supposed to stay the course. Ever feel that
Hmm.
conflict? Really questioning,
Hmm.
yeah, which direction am I supposed to be going? Are you giving me signs and telling me that this is not the path I'm supposed to follow and I'm supposed to go over here? You know what I mean?
Absolutely. I went through that fairly recently. Actually, I was just like, God, I just, I want you to guide me. Where am I supposed to be? I felt like, I'm not hearing you. I'm not sure where I'm supposed to go. Am I supposed to go, this route or this route? And so I felt like I was just stagnant, like I was just still, just waiting for him to tell me. Just tell me what to do, God. Just tell me what to do. What should I, sometimes I'm stubborn. So I need you just to flat out hit me in the face with it. And I struggled with that for a while. And truly, I think, you know, God was just calling me to get in the Word more. And so I did. And the more I got into the Word and started reading the Bible, I realized, you know what it is? Is it's movement. Is you just got to move. You just got to go where you feel and if that's not the right path, God will close that door, and that's what he does. And that's what he did with me is I would try. And it was kind of I guess like for me, it was something I thought I wanted. And God had shut the door many times. And I kept trying to go through that door. And I'm like, fine, God, what do you want? What do you want me to do? And the stagnation came from myself. It wasn't from God. It was from me because I was trying to go through a door that I wanted to go through, but not one that he wanted me to go through. And stubborn me said, okay, God, I will move in the other direction. You've shown me that this door isn't open to me anymore. And so I think just move and just go and God will close the doors that don't need to be opened and he will guide you the way. So, just go
No,
and,
I
and you'll
believe
know.
yeah, I completely believe it. And you're gonna like, it's kind of a funny story. So at the beginning of the year, I started this podcast last year and it all kind of fell into place really easily and was having a great time with it. And this year I was like, oh, I'm going to become a speaker now, right? I want to go on the speaking circuit. I have a story to tell. I hired some consultants and all this to try to help me do it. And it just was like, there was a resistance about it. All that it just didn't come naturally. It wasn't easy. And I thought, what's going on? And then I was really struggling even when I was meeting with my consultants. And I said, it just feels like, I don't know, just some tension, right?
Mhm.
So then I went on a skiing trip and fell and broke my arm. And one of the things my consultants has said every time we had a check-in, she said, Sharon, you tell me a lot about what you do, but I want to hear about, who you are, what I just want you to be, right? I just want you to be. And so I broke my arm and I was laid up for a while. And I said, well, I guess God made me slow down, stop, pause, reflect. And now I'm learning what it is to just be because I
Yeah.
had to be on people to get dressed and do my hair and do all that. And that is so not me. Like I'm
Yeah.
usually the one that's right in the middle of it all. Right. So I really felt this strong presence of him just really, like you said, slamming the door and saying, hold it,
Yep.
let's back up, let's figure out what you're supposed to do, but that's not it.
Yep.
Yeah.
Exactly.
And that's what it can feel like sometimes, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. So yeah, he slammed. He was like, okay, we're gonna break that arm. You're gonna sit still.
Sometimes he
Real
has
bad.
a way. That's,
Yeah.
you know,
I was like,
you in
there
your
had to be
track.
a reason.
He's got to get your attention somehow.
He sure did. For someone listening who feels alone right now, what would you say to her?
I would say, first and foremost, you are not alone. You are not alone. You're never alone. God is always with you. You may not see him. He's there. Call on him. Talk to him. He's our father. He's our friend, and so much more. So I would just encourage them to seek him further, because you will find such a relationship and a closeness that you've never known before. Even, you have your husband, you have your children, you have your friends, and those are all wonderful things. Each one gives us so much joy and, in different ways. And God just everything, fulfills everything. And there's truly a day that I don't think I could make it one day without him. I talk to God throughout the day,
Yeah.
multiple times a day. And I would just encourage them to seek him further. Um, and shoot, apply to come to Her Warrior Heart if you're a veteran, first responder, or contractor wife, because you will make friends that truly love you, care about you, and understand what you're going through.
I have a question. People can't make the retreat. You said it's sold out this year. They can apply for next year. Do you have an online group where people can connect and if they need a
So,
community that way?
yeah, so we just started a Bible study
Okay.
and we are going through, yes, we are going through the armor of God right now, but we just started a Bible study. And so it's open to veteran, first responder, and contractor wives.
Yeah. So then you can help more people, right? And they can create a virtual community.
Yes.
Yeah, that's great. That's so important. Is there a moment or story from your work that stopped you in your tracks where you thought, this is why I do this?
Every time I talk to a wife, every time I talk to a warrior, every single time. Ooh, you and
Yeah.
those questions. Yeah, I kind of going back to the, questioning God, like, is this what I'm meant to do? God, like, is this my purpose? Is this really what you want me to do? And sometimes I get just disheartened, downhearted, and just like, I'm just not making a difference. Kind of throwing myself a little pity party more than anything. And then I'll just be like, you know what? I'm just done. I'm just done. I'm not making a difference anyway. Who am I? And God will send somebody that needs help. Does it every single time. But throwing yourself a pity party, Krystal, and these people need help. And that it brings me so much joy. It fills my cup to be able to help somebody financially, help them get into a, medical treatment facility, whether it's for brain injury or spinal care or PTSD, whatever it may be, or even counseling. Gosh, I can't say one of my favorite things, but one of my favorite things is providing Christmas for families that struggled because we went through that where we couldn't have a Chris. I couldn't afford a Christmas for my family, and so that's one of my favorite things to do. Is just kind of pay it forward that way. But so yeah, I would say every time I have a conversation with somebody, every time I have the opportunity and am blessed to help in some way, that just shows me I'm on the right track, and it just fills my cup. I'm that person that I feel like if I'm not in chaos, then I'm bored. So I've got to have something. I've got to have a purpose. And that to me is definitely my purpose. I think God has called me to love. And so every day I just ask him, Lord, just reduce me to love, whatever it may be, whatever it is you have for me.
That's great. Transformations have you witnessed that really captures the spirit of your mission? I'm sure there've been many.
Many. Goodness, I would say transformations. Probably one of the biggest one is so many times I've had conversations with people who've called that are maybe on the verge of suicide. Because maybe it's a warrior who doesn't feel like they are a man anymore. Because a lot of times they come back and they've lost their purpose, or they don't feel like, I can't provide for my family, so they're better off without me, or I'm not a man anymore, or whatever they may be going through. I think helping them understand that, kind of, how we said with women, you're a wife, you're a mom, you're, dot, dot, dot. With men, it's the same. They identify as, I am a warrior. That's my, that's my purpose. That's my goal. And if I can't be that, then I'm nothing. And that's so absolutely not true. Like God created you, a warrior, to be sure, a warrior on the battlefield, or that the guy that's running into that fire or to save people. But you're also that warrior for your family. And I think one of the biggest transformations I've seen is men to come out of that and really find their purpose in who they are in God and who God created them to be outside of the battlefield. And men and women. I can't just say men, because I had a dear friend, or have a dear friend, same as I had many a conversation walking her back off that ledge. And not, by no means am I a counselor, but just being there and talking and seeing them now where they are, helping others, living a full, happy, best life. You just being that man, that husband, that dad that God created him to be the wife or the mother or the rock. You know, I see it every day in gosh, everything we do. You know, just life, just finding that purpose and living life, I think is such a big transformation because, you know, you come from a place of defeat and where death might be, you think might be your answer to life, you know. It's probably the biggest transformation I've seen.
Very lucky. What are a few small but powerful steps a woman can take today to reconnect
I'm sorry,
with her own warrior heart?
with her own warrior heart. I think just look back, look back on your life from childhood and just invite God to show you the areas that He's been growing you, developing you, strengthening you, healing you, all of the things. And just take that journey with Him, trust Him, and just take a really deep look at where he's brought you. And you'll see that, you know what, God created me for this. God, you know, I have been through some battles. I have been through the fire. I have walked through hell and I have came out on the other side. It's definitely not always easy, but I think that's where you are able to see where your strength and where your warrior heart is when you refuse to give up and you walk through that fire and you encourage God to go with you and to search your heart and take you on that journey. And you'll see who you were meant to be.
Great answer. That's great advice. Look back because you've overcome more than you realize,
Yep,
right?
exactly.
How do you personally refill your cup when you're constantly pouring into others?
You know, I enjoy just sitting in the morning, having my coffee, reading my Bible, and just spending time with God. I also love this Bible study that we have. I've started it with my friend Rose, who was last year's retreat lady. She came and, you know, I just love these ladies. I want to keep each and every one of them. I just want them to stay and just hang out with me
Oh,
because they're just amazing and special, and just watching the transformations from the time that they walk in the door to the time they leave and just seeing them walk into their own strength and purpose. And so just doing this Bible study with Rose, my friend Jody, she's a close friend that I have here, and just, you know, just having community with them and God, and of course my family. I think my, you know, my husband and my children and my grandchildren, truly anytime that sometimes when I'm whiny, I think I'm just like feeling down, feeling like I'm gonna, you know, just crumble. I just being with my family truly is just usually what I need.
yeah. Where do you see her warrior heart going in the next few years?
I would like to raise enough money to have multiple retreats in a year so we can reach more women than just 8 to 10 a year. There's such a need for it. And, you know, I would just love to expand that. I would love to maybe even scale that to different areas rather
So
than just.
how would someone support you financially? How would they contribute to Warrior Heart?
So you can go to krystalgeist.com and there's a button on there. It'll tell you my story. It'll tell you a little bit about the retreats. And there's a page on there for sponsorships if you want to help sponsor a retreat or if you just want to donate. Also, you can go to shadowwarriorsproject.org and you can donate that way. And that tells you a little bit more about what we do with Shadow Warriors Project and the other programs that we have.
At the end of your life, how do you want people to describe the impact you made?
I want them to, when they think of me or they think of the ladies or whatever, I really want them to say, you know what, God really, really impacted her to help others. Like God used her as an extension of his hands and his love. And that's really what I would love for people to remember.
It's beautiful. I wish there were more people like you.
Thank
The
you.
world would be a better place, Krystal. All right, Krystal, we're going to end with what I'm calling the final five. I've added these since our last podcast. These are a little more real and a little less polished, so just answer with whatever comes up first. Number
Okay.
one, what's something you've had to unlearn to become the woman you are today?
Oof. You know, I've had to unlearn having to do things all on my own. Watching my mom be a strong single woman, single mom. One of the things that she always taught me was to not depend on anybody else, not to ask anybody else for help. And when during COVID, Mark got COVID and he was really, really sick, and I was very alone. And I was like, God, I'm so alone. Where are you right now? And at that moment, God had sent an army of friends to come and to help. And I had to drop that pride and actually let let my friends and my neighbors help me because I needed it. And I think it was a huge lesson for me that um, you're not here to do it alone. You can't do it alone. And I just had to yield to that. And it was the most beautiful thing. I had neighbors, taking care of my dogs coming in. They cleaned my house and they did dishes. They watched the kiddo and so many different ways, just help. And it made me have to ask for help. And that was the hardest thing I think that I've ever had to do. But it was the most beautiful and rewarding.
So was Mark one of the ones that was in the hospital for a long time with COVID?
He was in the hospital for about a week with COVID. Yeah, it was, he didn't want to go to the hospital. And my background is in nursing, and I kept him home and I took care of him. And I kept in contact with one of our friends. He was a doctor and he cared for Mark kind of remotely. He was from Texas. And I was just in contact with him. I mean, it wouldn't matter. It'd be 1 a.m. and he'd get through with his patients and he would call me and check on Mark. And he was truly a lifesaver, as well as checking on me to see how I was doing. So there was a time I just said, I think he might have a blood clot in his lung. And so I took him to a hospital. I called one of our friends who was on the board of a hospital in Denver. And I just said, hey, look, I don't want to bring him in, but if I have to, I want to know that you're not going to put him on a ventilator, or else I won't. I'm not going to bring him in. And so he gave me his word that my wishes, you know, would take precedence. And I brought him into the hospital, and um, a few days, I don't remember exactly how many, 5 days or so. We brought him home, and he struggled with long COVID, and it was a lot. It was a long road. It was a tough road, but yeah, but we made it through.
Yeah. And, when was the last time you doubted yourself, and what did you do in that moment?
I doubt myself every single day. Every yeah, it's
Oh
it's an
no,
everyday thing. Yeah,
the
and
battle.
when it's a battle, it's a battle, and yeah, I doubt myself every single day. And you just got to put one foot in front of the other, and just God, get me through this day and help me to see who I am. And I need to remind myself who I am in God first and foremost. And that you know that usually helps. And there's days that are better than others, but I don't have an answer other than
Number three, what's a hard truth about healing that most people don't want to hear?
it's long and it hurts. Healing is you have to get real. You have to get real. You have to go deep, and you have to be willing to look at the hard things, go through them, look at the truth of the matter, not just what you want to see, but you have to peel back those layers and be willing to go to the depths of your heart, and be willing to do it. I mean, I think so many people, say they want to heal, but they're not willing to go into the pain of it. And you sometimes you have to.
All right, this is one of my favorite questions, so I hope you like this one. All right, ready, Krystal? Across from your younger self for 5 minutes, what would you say, and what would she say back?
If I could across from my younger self, I would say, girl, you've got a long road ahead of you, but you're going to make it. You're going to make it. Dive deeper into God, because the younger me I had a faith, I had a belief, I loved God, but I didn't always act. And so I would tell myself, look up and trust God and follow Him, and He will lead you exactly where you need to be. You're going to make it. It's going to be a struggle. It's going to be hard, but be proud of yourself. And the younger me would say, I don't even know. I don't even know. Gosh, I think the younger me would say, well, how about you write it all down? Give me a tutorial of, step by step. What do I do? How do I do this? How do I navigate this? How do I get there?
Younger you needed a plan, huh?
I did. I did.
She wanted
Yeah.
it all
Hold
mapped
my
out.
hand. Hold my hand and take me there because
Oh, wow. Well, you should be proud of yourself. You've done amazing work and you're going to continue to do amazing work. Number
yes.
five, this is our last question. Fill in the blank. Joy is blank.
I think joy is just, the first thing that comes to my mind is just life. Just going through life. You can find joy in everything, beauty, you know, there's so much beauty if you just look around and you just take a moment to look at it. I've done a lot of things. I've been a nurse. I've seen people leave this world. I've seen people come into this world, experienced a lot of hardship, a lot of good things. But the the great thing of it is God is in every bit of it. Even in the ashes you can find the beauty. And so I think just going through life is, you know, seek it out, seek joy in everything you do, everywhere you go, every moment, even in the hard things. There's joy to be found. So I think just living your life and not taking it for granted.
Before I close, is there anything else you would like to share with our listeners that we may not have covered?
Gosh, no, just you know what? If you don't know Jesus, I encourage you to seek him out, to find him. Because if you're not a believer, if you're on the fence, if you're struggling, if you're battling because of maybe something you've gone through and you're not trusting, God's there. He's in the details. He didn't do this to you. God faced Jesus came and he faced the hardships and the struggles himself. He faced everything that you're going through, and he faced, you know, people can be hard, and Jesus faced it too. So I just encourage you to just let go and trust God, and seek him out, and just give it all to him.
Crystal, your story and your mission are such a powerful reminder that strength isn't about having it all together. It's about choosing to rise again and again, and then reaching back to help someone else do the same. What I love most about her warrior heart is that it doesn't just inspire, it creates space for women to be seen, to be heard, and to remember who they are underneath everything life has layered on top. If you're listening today and something in this conversation spoke to you, don't ignore that. That's your heart nudging you. Reach out, get connected, take one small step because we're not meant to do this alone. Crystal, thank you for sharing your heart with us today. And to everyone listening, if this episode resonated, share it with someone who might need it. Follow along on Spotify, Apple, and YouTube at Joy of the Hang. And as always, go make time for a meaningful hang because that's where real joy is. Thank you, Crystal.
Yes. Thank you, Sharon.